Okay. Can you hear me? I hope so. I don't know what's going on. Um, but we're here. We're live. I don't know what my laptop is doing. But okay.
She's back.
Listen, I don't know what's going on, but it's just too much. It's a lot. But anyway, happy Mother's Day. I'm 25 and 23. So my children tend to think that I am their child now at this point in my life. They tend to say that I am I am very, very hard headed and I don't listen to anything that they have to say, which is probably true for the most part. Um, so I'm using my phone now. I don't know what's going on with my laptop. It's doing its own little thing. But anyway, it doesn't matter. We're still here. We're going to celebrate moms. And to all the moms out there that are listening and tuning in, happy Mother's Day. We're still trying to get Dr. Carolyn in. She's trying to reboot her computer and see if that helps. If not, you guys will get me for the whole duration. And I'll try not to keep you too long. And I'll just share some stories about motherhood from my perspective and from my experience. Um, I had my daughter when I was 17 years old, still a baby, still a teenager, still not really understanding what life was about for myself. And here I am about to be somebody's mom. Not only that, God decided to give me a daughter. I didn't know what to do with that child. I had absolutely no clue whatsoever, simply because I had grown up with mostly boys. And so, with growing up with mostly boys, you don't really know the girly type things that you're supposed to do. Because I was a tomboy, I was in the streets cutting flips, playing baseball, softball, kickball, football, and all of the above in the streets with them. So, that is all I knew. Hey, brother, how are you? Thank you for tuning in. So starting motherhood for me at a very young age was something I wasn't quite sure that I was ready for, that I knew anything about, but I have been taking care of other people's children, because they seem to think that I was responsible for, taking care of their children. My very first experience with kids at a young age was I was 13 years old. My aunt and uncle, they were going out of town to a softball tournament, and their youngest was about 5 or 6 months old, and they were going out of town for the weekend. Um, and they asked me to keep the baby. Now, during this time, you still had to like sterilize the bottles. The milk came in the can, and you had to boil the water to mix in with the can of milk. So I'm 13. I'm not quite sure, what I'm supposed to do, but I had been doing it anyway. Just, randomly when they needed a babysitter, I would always volunteer. So I did that, and they decided that they were going to go out of town and trust me with their child, not only for an overnight visit, but 2 nights. And they expected her to be safe. Now there was another adult in the house. It wasn't just me being 13 left alone, but the ultimate responsibility was mine. And so I managed to do it. She didn't die. There wasn't anything wrong with her. She still had all her limbs. And so everything was, good. She survived. I survived. Now, coming back to myself, 17, not quite sure to know what motherhood was going to look like or feel like, but I did make a promise to my daughter to, always be there and always be an open door for her to be able to talk to me about anything. Now, I think I made a big mistake when I did that, because my children now, they're grown and they talk to me about everything, and some of the things I really don't want to know. And that's one of the things that does come with motherhood. So I've been a mother for 28 years now. And it doesn't get easier. There's a lot of books that they have out here that, you can, it's a guideline, I'll say it that way. Because it's really on the job training that you get when you have your own child. Because I got three, and there are three distinct, different personalities. My oldest, she is very outspoken, but also she has the most kind hearted spirit when it comes to caring for others. My youngest has that spirit too. My middle one, he's more of straight to the point, very blunt, very, hard headed, to the sense of not wanting to be told what to do, but has to go through the hard lessons and find out the hard way versus actually taking the advice that you're giving him so that he doesn't get hurt. He's that child. My youngest is the logical and more person who's going to hold you accountable to doing the things that you say that you're going to do. He is that type of child and has always been since he's been on this earth. And he holds me accountable. If I tell him I'm going to do something, he holds me to that standard, to the deadline that I say. And I'm grateful for that. So God knew what he was doing when he blessed me with these three. But some days I be trying to run away from them, but it doesn't quite work out that way because they going to find me and they going to call around to find me if they have not heard from me in a day or two. I remember I had a stroke. Well, not just that I remember that I had a stroke, but I remember the time when I did, and I was going through some things, and I didn't understand how my kids were really just so happy go lucky during the whole process of everything that I was going through. My kids have always looked at things in a way of positivity, even in the midst of darkness and things of that nature. And I didn't understand why. But my son, I told them something when they were smaller, and that was to give whatever you give your feelings to, whatever you focus on the most, that feeling, whether it's anger, sadness, happiness, frustration, whatever it is, whatever you give that to, that is where your focus is going to go. So if you're constantly thinking of negative things and whatever, that is what your emotions are going to stay on. They're going to be like that all the time. And so I was going through my situation, not knowing how to talk and doing all this. Doctors didn't know what was going on with me either. And I came home from the doctors. I was really frustrated because the doctor still didn't know what was going on. And I asked my oldest son, I said, listen, son, why are y'all so happy? Mommy is not understanding what's going on with her. And I can't figure out why y'all are so happy. And my son told me, he said, it's your fault. I said, what do you mean it's my fault? He said, you have created us to be this way. And so, since you've created us to be this way, because you told us any emotion that we stick with the longest, that's the one that controls whatever it is that we do. And so, with that being said, I didn't know, number one, that he was listening to what I said because he was about 7 or 8 years old when I told him that. Now he's 13 and he's giving me back what I had told him. And so now I'm like, okay, you're absolutely right. So I gave myself a little pity party for about 30 minutes, and then I pulled myself together to figure out what it was that I was going to do. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit about my relationship with my mom. And it was I'm not going to say a love hate relationship, but it was a relationship that was tested over the years. And it was tested to the fact of um, wanting to choke her sometimes, and probably she wanting to do the same to me. But it was one where I had to be the adult in the situation instead of being the child. And my mother, she suffered with a drug addiction and alcohol addiction, and it wasn't easy growing up in a situation like that because she was an individual all her own, and she made decisions according to how she felt they should be. Um, so we butted heads a lot, in that situation, to where um, I didn't know if we were gonna make it. We were gonna get to a place that we got before she passed. Um, I was usually the one making sure that my younger siblings were okay when my mom had them, but she ended up losing custody of them when I was about 14 years old. Um, and so having two younger siblings that were in foster care, another sibling that was living with our father, um, it took a toll on me as a young mom growing up with my own daughter. I only had the one at that time, but making sure that my mother's bills were paid, that her lights were on, that her water was taken care of, that the kids' clothes were washed and taken care of, making sure that they got back and forth to school, things of that nature. That was pretty much the majority of my relationship with my mom. Hey, Farron, happy Mother's Day to you too. Also, hey sis, how are you? Listen, you guys, I'm just talking right now. So I thank you guys for tuning in, and happy Mother's Day. You guys could be somewhere else doing something else, but you're here with me celebrating, and I want to say thank you. Motherhood is one of those things that does not come with a instruction guide. It's really on the job training, and each child that you have, you will notice that it goes from one extreme to the other. And if you have children who are have challenges. I'm not going to say that they're disabled or have disabilities or anything like that, because they're created special and they're created in the ways that God intended for them to be. So, and He chose you to be that mother to that child, because there's something that you both need to bring out in each other, and that's the purpose for most of us. And sometimes we miss that with our children, that our children are placed here for other reasons outside of just being our children. They have a bigger purpose and a greater purpose for their lives. And sometimes, as parents, I feel like we try to live out our dreams through our children, which isn't always a good thing. So we have to be mindful and hear our children when they have their goals and their dreams and their true identity for themselves. Thank you. Um, I'm trying hard not to cry because I'll start thinking about my mom. So bear with me. It's coming up on 2 years, June the 15th. And as you guys have probably seen, I'm going to be celebrating her 66th birthday on July the 5th. And I just completed the book, and I completed it, I've edited it, and so I'm just waiting on it to actually be completed and finished. And I did it in honor of her. And the price of the book remembers her in every way that I could think of. So if you decide to purchase a book, if you do the paperback, it's going to be 15. If you do the hardcover, it's going to be 23, and it's going to have a total of 66 pages honoring her passing date, the year that she passed, and the age she would have turned if she was still here. One thing I can say about my mom is that if she was here, she would love to be on the show. she would be surprised that I would still be doing the show, and that I actually have friends that I enjoy talking to, spending time with, and things of that nature. Because my mom has always seen me with just myself and my kids, not really too many people outside of that, and of course my best friend. But I'm not really a big people person. Um, Mostly a loner. Um, but I've made it to step out of my comfort zone and be in spaces and places where I fit, and not places where I don't. Um, I'm not sure what's going on with Dr. Carolyn, but we've tried to get her on, and if she makes it, great. Motherhood can take its toll on us mentally and physically, and having a good support system around you is one of the things that you definitely need. Having a support system to where you can call upon people when you're overwhelmed, overstimulated, and things of that nature. I know when I had my daughter, and I was living with my aunts, they used to make fun of me, with my daughter, because I was teaching her, her body parts and how to say her name and how to do all of those things. And they would ask me why was I doing those things, because it wasn't my responsibility. It was for the teachers to do when she got old enough to go to school. And we would have an argument about that, because it was like, kids learn first at home. They learn by the things that they see and hear and interact with. And so I wanted to make sure that my child was ready to go to school when it was time for her to go to school, and not just be dependent upon the school system to teach my child. And I made sure that she knew what she needed to do. She started kindergarten, and my brother and my sister-in-law had come to the house, and it was a a Thursday, and Kyla had vocabulary to do. And if you know my daughter, you know how dramatic she can really and truly be. And she was just breaking down in tears and just crying. And of course, her uncle did not like any bit of that. He said that I was being too hard on her, that she was just a kid, she was just a baby, that I didn't need to be fussing at her to get this work done. And I'm like, she has a vocabulary test tomorrow. There's 10 words, and we go through this every single week. And she cries for 20 minutes to an hour, depending on the words that she feels like it's just too much. And so he would not allow us to continue to study, even though she was crying, and I had gotten used to it at that point. And so she ended up going to school on Friday, and she failed her spelling test. And I told my brother, I said, see, you butted in, because you said that I didn't need to be messing with your niece at this point. And she failed. She made a 65. And so she cried, of course, about that when she got home, because she made a 65. But it was because she didn't complete her routine of crying for however long she needed to cry. It would be 20 minutes to 45 minutes to an hour sometimes, every single Thursday night, like clockwork. Okay, so she made that 65. The next week, Thursday came, we did the same thing. Let her cry, let her fuss, let her do everything else that she needed to do. By Friday, she took the test, and guess what? She made 100. It was just the way that she dealt and processed the stuff that she needed to process. I'm not sure why it worked, but it did work for her. Um, Knowing when to take a break and when to say that you are overwhelmed and you're stressed is key to actually being the best version of yourself and being available to your children. And saying that you're not okay is okay to say. and never feel bad for saying that you're not okay. I think most of the time when moms get overwhelmed, especially when you're a single mom and you're raising your children, um, you don't really want to ask for help sometimes because you feel as if people are going to judge you for asking for help. And I know I experienced that a lot because I had a stroke, was dealing with going through a separation and a divorce, and having to ask my family for help in moments that I needed them was one of the toughest things that I had to do. But which it still is at times, it's hard for me to do, is to ask for help, but I've learned that it's okay. And people most of the time, they're not judging, they're willing to help if you know. And as the saying goes, a closed mouth can't get fed, so nobody knows what you're going through unless you tell them. So if you're having a hard time, unsure of what you have going on, what you are frustrated with and unsure about, always speak up and say something about it. And I did a journal last year, and it's called A Queen's Guide to Mental Wellness and Self Love, Becoming a Healthier You in Every Way. And if you guys get an opportunity, you can go and get this off of Amazon. And it basically has some little tips in here. Um, and basically where you can do a daily check-in with yourself about what you're feeling, what you're going through, some affirmations, and just some little small steps that you can, know, maintain a healthy mental health with yourself and to love yourself. Our bodies go through with so many changes, not only the physical but the mental as well, because when your hormones aren't balanced in the way that they need to be balanced, you are literally all over the place. And I may even be all over the place tonight because I've switched so many different subjects, but I'm just trying to cover so much in a small amount of time. So I love you for bearing with me, and my emotions are literally all over the place today because, like I said, I don't have my mom, and you know, not having her here is a different feeling. So anybody who's lost a parent knows that feeling. Is not an easy, and it's an adjustment. It's a moment by moment adjustment. It's not um, one of those things is, as they say, time heals all wounds. This is a wound that will never heal, no matter how much it's nursed or nurtured or whatever. A wound like this is never ending, and you're always learning how to adjust to what emotions and what feelings come. And I'm still learning how to sit in the emotions that I feel when they come up when it comes to my mom. One thing, the hardest chapter in writing the book for my mom was the final chapter, and that was healing my mother wound. And that is the title of that chapter. And basically, I had to go through the steps of grieving as I wrote that chapter. And that was one of the hardest chapters because even though I know that she's not coming back, I had to grieve the process of grieving her all over again. But I grieved my mother for as long as I've had her. And I say that because I didn't live with my mom. And so I got used to seeing her every 3 to 6 months. And sometimes it may be a year or two, even though she still lived in the same city in town or whatever here in Spartanburg. It would still be where I didn't see her on a regular basis. And so I got used to not seeing her regularly. So when she ended up in the hospital in 23 in February. From mid February until probably the day she passed, I think I may have missed 4 days total of not seeing her. And my mom wasn't an easy person to get close to as far as affection and love goes, because she wasn't big on saying I love you. She wasn't big on hugs and kisses. She wasn't that. But when she was with my children, they got to see that version of her. And me watching her with them made me see her in a different light, because wasn't what she wasn't able to give to me, she gave to them. And my kids were able to, especially my daughter, was able to climb in the bed with my mom and love on her. I wasn't able to do that until after she was in the facility in Gaffney. And I was able to get in the bed and lay beside her and love on her and kiss on her. And that was one of the greatest gifts that I ever got. And after we had that moment, she was one of the CNAs was in the room, and they were changing her bed linen on the bed. And so I was helping, and mom had to lean over, but she was not as strong as she once was. And so I was holding her in my arms, and she looked up at me and she said, "This is right up in your alley, ain't it?" I said, "Yes, ma'am. This is something I've been waiting to do for my whole life. And now, guess what? You can't run. You got to sit here and take every bit of the love and all these hugs and kisses that I get to give you." And it's lovely for me. And she just died laughing. And so I was just like, okay, I can do this. I can get used to this. I can enjoy each and every moment that I get to love on you, kiss on you, tell you that I love you, and hear you say it back to me. And every day that I would get off work, I would go and see her. And I would be tired, but I would still make my way to Gaffney every day to go and sit with her for 1 or 2 hours, and then come home and repeat that process. And if I was not there by a certain time, she would always call or have my aunt call me if my aunt was there visiting to see if I was okay. Not, and I don't think she was just calling to see if I was okay. She was just making sure that I was coming, because every single time I entered that room, her face would light up, because she was happy to see me. And that was something that made my day, regardless if she was mad at me or whatever, because she would get mad at me for various reasons. That's just who she is. She was stubborn one day. My brother had came down to visit, and she was being stubborn. She didn't want to get her bandages changed, and she refused. So I got off work and I went, and I got there. I said, "Mommy, why won't you let the nurses change your bandages?" I got my reasons. They my personal reasons. I said, okay, well, I understand that. I said, but mommy, it's time for you to get those changed, and you need to let them do it. Triveda, I'm not doing that today. Yes, you are. You're gonna do that today. I need a new order. I said, okay, what order do you need? I need a new order because I'm not doing that. I said, okay, fine. That you gonna get them changed today. So I went to the nurse's station. I asked for a piece of paper, and I asked for a pen. And I said, who's here to change her bandages? Are they still here? And to do the wound care for her. And they was like, yeah, they're still here, but they're not going to be here much longer. Well, make sure that they stay, because she's going to be getting these bandages changed. So what I wrote on the piece of paper was, um, I, Alfredia Ann Harris, gives permission to have my bandages changed today. I signed my name, I put the date and the time, and then I made my mama sign it too. She got them bandages changed, but she kept telling me that it was her business and it was her personal reasons. You don't got no personal reasons, and you getting these bandages changed today. I don't care nothing about what you talking about, because we doing this today. And she got them changed, needless to say, but she fussed. And her favorite saying, I'm not gonna say it now, but she had her way of letting people know who she was. She loved to play softball. She loved to cook. One thing she did not share with me, which I'm a little salty about, still, my mama could make the best fried chicken, but she didn't have this. She would always take the skin off. But y'all, when I tell you, this fried chicken still tasted as if the skin was on there because it would still be crispy and juicy and everything. But she took the skin off the chicken. And for me, that's the most favorite part of chicken. I don't know about y'all, but for me, it was. But she would not give me that recipe at all. She didn't give it to me. She didn't give it to my daughter. She didn't give it to her sister. She didn't give it to none of us. So she kept that to herself. But I'm gonna figure it out because I know what her little seasonings and stuff was. But I'm gonna see about that because I ain't never really cooked the chicken without the skin on it, except for if I'm baking chicken or something like that, or doing something a little different. But love on your moms. If you are having a hard time, hard relationship, remember that your mother was a child herself at one point. So try to get to know them in a way that you never did before. Because when I started to realize that my mother was a child before she had me, she belonged to somebody before I came along. She had her own ideas of what she wanted her life to look like. And maybe I was not part of that plan. And I had to realize that she's made some mistakes and been through some things, and something in her life made her turn to drugs and alcohol and of a sense of comfort. And me, my drug of choice is chocolate. So that's my thing. Now, I may not eat it as much as I once did, but I definitely will buy it and it will sit. So I haven't quite broke that habit just yet. But that has been my go-to. But you got to figure out where those triggers were, and love them from a space of where they are willing to receive it. Now, it took my mom 63 years to allow me in her space to love on her before she left, and I'm grateful that she gave me that opportunity to love on her, to show her that there was no hard feelings, that I did not hold her to the sum of what she came into this world bearing. Her burdens were hers, and I didn't blame her for us not having the greatest relationship, because I also know that I played a role in that as well, with not wanting to be known as her daughter at one point in my life, because as a teenager growing up, you are ridiculed and made fun of if you have a parent that's on drugs when you're in school. People tend to make fun of you and not want to show you any kindness. They'd rather make fun of you. But I realized also that some of those same people that were probably making fun of me, their parents were dealing with the same things, but they were better at hiding it. I'm not good for hiding what I'm dealing with. If you know me, and whatever I'm going, it's gonna show on my face. um, but love on your moms. Call them, tell them that you appreciate them, tell them that you love them. Honor them in the best way that you know how, in a way that they would be proud to be remembered. um, Motherhood is definitely a gift in itself. It's a gift that keeps on giving. And now I have grandchildren. And I get to love on them. Now, my kids tell me that I have gotten soft because the things that they were not able to get away with, that my grandkids are now able to get away with. And I don't quite agree with that, but I'm not supposed to, because I'm in the role of grandma, not so much as mom. But um, I love being a mom. I love being a grandma. It is a difference in the love, because I didn't know that my heart could expand any more than it already had. Um, but I thank you guys so much for tuning in. And make sure that you come out and join me on July the 5th, at from 12:30 from 12 to 3 at 150 Yolanda Drive in Spartanburg, South Carolina. It is a book signing. It's going to be my very first book signing, you guys, and it's going to be a birthday celebration in honor of my mom. And the title of the book is called From Fractured to Fulfilled: Healing My Relationship with My Mom. It's a reflection of where our relationship started and the growth of how we were able to mend and find our way to the mother daughter relationship that we ultimately had. I realized in my mom's passing that she was always the mother that I needed because I became the mother that I wanted to my children. And had I not realized that the image that you see on TV all the time of these loving mother daughter relationships, they're just fairy tales. But the mother that I had was the mother that I needed so that I could become the mom that I am. And I'm forever grateful for every lesson that my mom taught me. The strength that this woman had and that she showed even during her final weeks here on this earth, she was so strong that those around her, she's the oldest of her siblings and I'm the oldest of her children, and she never allowed them to see the weakness that she was actually feeling. So when they would leave, my mom became a baby in the sense of being able to be that vulnerable and let her guard down and to let me in that space. um it let me see just how strong I really was and where I got my strength from and where I continue to draw from, because no, she's not here anymore, but she still is pushing me to be the greatest version of myself and the greatest version of her, because she created me, and without her I would not be who I am. So I thank you guys for tuning in because I'm about to start crying again. Um, but please come out and join me July the 5th, from 12 to 3, 150 Yolanda Drive in Spartanburg, South Carolina. Even just come out because I'm going to be baking some cupcakes because my mama love red velvet cupcakes. So I'll have some of those. It's going to be light refreshments, and you'll hear more stories from family and friends about us. And since today is about also mental health, make sure you grab this book because you're going to need it. It's a workbook also. It gives you all of, check-ins, self-care, little quotes and things that you can tell yourself. And I'll read you one little affirmation from this book. Well, I'll read you a couple of them. Every journey has a first step, and loving yourself is not selfish. Make your mental health a priority when you are going through life, because life can throw you some curveballs and you don't want to get stuck in a downward spiral to be so overwhelmed that you feel like you don't have anybody that you can turn to. God is always there, no matter when it seems and looks like we don't know where we're going. God always is the great GPS. He'll never lead you astray. So focus on Him, pay attention to His instructions, and you'll always be on the right path to get where you're going. So I thank you guys for tuning in. Happy Mother's Day again to all the mothers out there. And always remember to stay out of God's business. The only thing He needs you to do is be obedient to what He's called you to do. I love you guys. Good night.